you check the children? Show a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is what
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Well, hello there, Fright fans. Welcome to the Horror Show. Bienvenidos. I'm Jaime and Fuego, and back for another Patreon review that I'm rounding out here right before jumping back for spring studies at Arizona State. And yes, this is another poll recommendation. So this is from the month of September, and this is for a film that translated into English is called Tailgate, but if we're going to use the, I believe, German original title, Bumperklief. Yeah, which, so tailgating with reference to this is the term where you're like following somebody just a little bit too closely on the road. And so, yes, you can tell that this is in fact a road rage revenge sort of movie. And so it opens up with a bang, I gotta say. So overall thoughts, you have this cyclist, and there's a dude in a van after him, and you're given no indication as to what the reason for the sense of urgency and fear on this cyclist's face is, until you see this dude, this older guy actually, and a nonchalant one at that, at least as far as appearance goes. You know, he just runs the dude over, man, and it's grisly and just smack down, smash, and then this guy proceeds to put on like a full-on like chemical suit, and he gets like the spray canister and everything for like some nasty pesticide sort of shit, and he goes after this cyclist, and like we're talking like the tube at the end, he like jams it in his mouth, and the guy's begging for mercy. It's a very unsettling scene and intro to this film. Then the actual film starts, and now this is one that I wish I hadn't killed that fish, to quote Homer Simpson. I wish that there was a subtitled version of this that I could have checked out. So I watched this on Prime, which has a channel called no, it's not Freebie, I gotta double check. So it's called Film Movement, and so that's where I was able to find this. It's dubbed in English, and it is dubbed horrendously. We're talking laughably dubbed, and it's situations like this, like when you have a good dub. I'm not talking about anime, because in that regard, I'm always fine with an English dub, you know, provided it's okay. But in live action, especially when things just aren't syncing up very well, it can be tolerable. Like, I just watched a great film from J.A. Bayona. I believe it was called Society of the Snow, something of that nature. But it's about the Uruguay rugby team that crashed. And so I watched that dubbed on Netflix, and it was fantastic. This is an example of a horrible dub, and when horrible dubs are the case, it's almost like you want to just mute the dialogue and just read subtitles. And there was a point in which that I really thought about doing this, but in any event, the dubbing is awful. But the story, it didn't really do much for me either, man, because so you have this family, you know, husband who is very irritable, and his wife, and then they have their two cute little daughters, and they're going on a road trip, and they're heading to see Grandma and Grandpa. Grandpa is very obviously going through either Alzheimer's, dementia, you know, something, you know, very sad and tragic of that nature, which happens to, you know, far too many when it comes to old age. But so they're making the road trip, and they run afoul of said guy that we saw going after the cyclist at the very beginning. And so overall thoughts, it was too by the numbers for me to really get that engaged. And even aside from the really bad dubbing that kind of took me out of it at times, I thought it was well made enough, but it's still like, I think it was R-rated, but it doesn't really push the rating. There's not really any sort of body count. It's just, I don't know, man. This felt very tame to me. It's much more on the thriller side of stuff than on like the full-on horror side of things, if I'm going to be completely fair. The family was fine, but just I never really felt a sense of danger. Like, the stakes just never felt high enough for me in this. And that's not to say that it's not well shot, especially some of the driving sequences of tension, the chase bits, they're all pretty good. And even the acting isn't awful. Like, you know, bad voice acting aside, I didn't think that, you know, the daughters really sell the peril once the stuff escalates and everything. Parents were fine enough. The grandparents, they're intentionally laughable, and so that kind of makes sense. I mean, I know that they were written and they were deliberately portrayed that way, especially with some of the exchange about, hey, why are you running late and all that. So that's fine. But I don't know. It wasn't awful by any means, you know, the voice dub was. As a film itself, no, but it just felt very safe, very pedestrian, which I guess is, you know, when they're talking about driving and stuff and pedestrians and whatnot. Yeah, that's kind of the way it was. Very, very okay. And so yeah, that's the overall thoughts, and I've really hit on a lot of the story already. So the family runs afoul of the older gentleman, most notably, like, he kind of sticks his nose in their business. They're just stopping at a gas station and they're getting some snacks, and the wife and the two little girls are not looking forward to the cooking of grandmother, who says at one point, she's like, I made oatmeal soup, and they're just like, ugh, oatmeal soup. And I don't know if that's a thing in certain parts of Europe or whatever, but even they seem disgusted by the thought of it, and so they want some grease at the gas station. And so when they're getting burgers and stuff, apparently, said old guy who runs over the cyclist at the beginning, he goes and pokes his nose into their business and tells the little girls eating that's going to give them cancer, and freaks them out. And of course, husband, who has already appeared irritable, not only from the driving situation and the fact that he's stuck in traffic and he's running late, but even before he got on the road, he was already just on edge and just testy with his wife and with his kids and stuff. And yeah, he doesn't take any old homie shit, dude, and that is where the situation worsens. And old guy has a penchant for taking people's phones, as you find out at the very beginning with the cyclist. He has dude's phone somehow, and he does the same thing with the father in this family, takes his phone and, you know, tries crushing it. And I don't know, once again, you know, as it really turns into this old guy messing with the family, pretty much by the numbers from there. Not much else that I can say that's going to surprise anybody or that actually transpires in the film. From an acting standpoint, I've already hit a lot of it. I will say the old guy, he is interestingly menacing because of the fact that, based on appearance, you know, he looks like he would be just a lovable, you know, like early middle-aged sort of guy. And just the fact that, you know, more or less unprovoked for no reason, he is, I mean, that's the epitome of a sadistic killer sort of piece of crap, right? You know, the fact that, you know, they have no real legitimate reason, although they try to rationalize it to themselves, as you can see, you know, how this guy pokes and prods with the family initially, trying to get a rise out of them, and then in turn, when he gets desired rise, then he makes it act like he has every right to be, you know, this piece of crap. And so his performance was solid. I will definitely give it that, despite the hamminess of the grandparents and the dependable but not really memorable aspect of the family themselves. Although, once again, the little girls, especially in the third act, really sell the peril quite well. I guess I already hit a lot of the filmmaking as far as technique and stuff like this goes. The action shots, especially, there was one chase bit where the mom ends up having to take the wheel because the father has been injured, and so she's driving and she's going like through this playground area, driving over sandboxes and all this stuff. So that stuff was rather thrilling. And there's also some tension in the third act that, based on some of the camera angles chosen, especially as the father is trying to climb up this wall at one particular point in the third act, once they get to where the final confrontation of sorts goes down. I mean, it wasn't poorly made, and you could tell that there was at least just technique and a element of expertise that was involved in this. But it really just, and the music, nothing really inspired me as far as score or, you know, choice of any sort of popular music. Although one of the bits where you feel very disjointed from hearing the English language spoken in these overdubs is where the father first realizes that the old man is following them in his van down by the river, and so he goes up to his vehicle, and you hear this weird, like, almost like Euro gypsy music of some sort playing in the old man's vehicle, and that's where you immediately remember, oh yeah, we're definitely not in the States, we're not in Kansas anymore. And but aside from that, yeah, nothing really particularly that sticks out as far as score, musical choice, any of that nature. I guess to round out this review, this is not me just being disparaging, because apparently if it won the September poll, there were enough people who really dug this. I didn't feel like it was unique enough, and brought enough interesting and just signature things to the table, aside from maybe the fact that dude is going around with pesticides. And there is a point where, you know, you see all the nasty lesions and stuff on his leg, and there's another point where the father, you know, gets all sprayed up in his neck, these like boils and stuff going down. So the makeup and the just bits of practical that they used for those bits were impressive enough. So this is a very competently made film, and it's not terribly acted either, but it just really felt by the numbers in a lot of ways, and didn't really stand out, you know, from the rest of the pack on the track. So, I've been Jaime and Fuego, everybody. You can find me on all social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, even on the Tiki-Talkies. I've been throwing some little short reviews of non-horror stuff out there. But sometimes these reviews migrate over on the Horror Show channel from the Patreon, and obviously, thanks to all of our patrons, to the regular channel. So if you happen to see this on there, the liking, the sharing, the subscribing, if you haven't, my goodness, please do that. It helps us keep the lights on, everybody, and we greatly appreciate it. So, I've been Fuego, y'all have been Rad Status, and until next time, all of you spooky ookies, stay scared.